Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt, heading on the road, playing South Carolina. Night game inside of Williams-Brice Stadium, kicking off SEC play with the top 15 ranked team in South Carolina. Like the environment and the college football fans that followed this sport closely, you already knew this. The environment's going to be incredible. And the matchup here is really fascinating too, because you're looking at a Vanderbilt team that's really playing some good football to start 2025. Absolutely smoked Virginia Tech, specifically in the second half of that football game on the road at Virginia Tech. Then you look at South Carolina and say, hey, we all know that South Carolina can play college football playoff caliber football. That's what we see on the roster. That's what we see on paper. They haven't necessarily played that way to start 2025. And I think a lot of South Carolina fans would agree with this statement. Got to play better football if you want to get it done against a very tricky Vanderbilt team that has shown us in the past they can go up and just play with about anybody in the country. Fired up to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, Vanderbilt fans, South Carolina fans, y'all let it fly in the comment section. I promise you we will be breaking this one down either late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. I'm fired up for this one. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let it rip in the comment section. A lot of different ways you can look at this football game. Without further ado, let's get into it. I want to start with this Vanderbilt offense. That is a very, very fun offense to watch, and they run the football in so many different ways. Like, it ain't no secret what Vanderbilt's going to be trying to do on the road against South Carolina. That's run the football. Now, what makes it tricky to defend is the amount of different ways they can do it. They already have three guys that have carried the football for over 100 yards to start 2025. You're going to see a lot of pre-snap motion. You're going to see a lot of options. You're going to see some speed options to the perimeter. You're going to see Diego Pavia get involved in the run game as well. There might not be a more versatile and multiple rushing attack in the country than what Vanderbilt's going to be trying out there. What's the key for South Carolina? It ain't no secret. It's stopping the run. Here's what I'm looking at. Number one, this is what should make South Carolina fans feel decent about South Carolina's chances. I think these linebackers are freaking awesome for South Carolina. And a couple of weeks ago, that was the biggest question we had about this football team was what you were going to get from the linebackers. Super young group that has not played a ton of football. I would make the argument throughout the first 2 weeks of the season, some of your best players right now are residing in that linebacker room, whether it's Fred Johnson, whether it's Justin O, whether it's Sean Murphy. The linebacker play has been exceptional, and it's going to need to be exceptional against Vanderbilt. Number one, they're going to challenge your eyes. Like, they're going to give you a lot of eye candy. They're going to give you a lot of misdirection. If you are South Carolina's linebacker room, got to be super disciplined with your run fit. Here's the other thing that I think does favor South Carolina in this game. Vanderbilt's going to try to get the ball to the perimeter. You know, they're going to ask these South Carolina linebackers to run, chase, and tackle. And from what we saw during the first two games of the season, there is not many more athletic linebacker rooms in the country than what South Carolina brings to the table. These guys fly around the football field. They hit everything with a pulse. If I'm a South Carolina fan, I know the linebacker play is going to be crucial in this game. I'm feeling good about the linebackers that South Carolina has dealing with this Vanderbilt rushing attack. And I'll say this as well. Interior of that defensive line, been pretty damn solid too. I think Nick Barrett's been a hammer all year against the run. I think Monkel Goodwin's given you some good reps. I think Gabriel Brown-Ladindi has given you some good reps as well. Feel decent about South Carolina's ability to stop the run in this football game. Here's the other thing. You're probably walking your safeties into the box. I think to deal with this Vanderbilt rushing attack, you need to allocate bodies to support the run because of how many different guys they use, and you have to account for what Diego Pavia can do as a runner as well. One of the other matchups that I think South Carolina is comfortable with, we love our defensive backs. And I know South Carolina is a little dinged up in the defensive back room. It sounds like most of those guys will be healthy for this football game. Talking about a guy like Brandon Sissy, I think Vicari Swayne's obviously played some very good football for South Carolina. Kilgore will be back, it sounds like. Do you trust your defensive backs to hold up on islands against these Vanderbilt pass catchers? Because if you do, then you can start walking DQ Smith and walking Peyton Williams into the box and allocate some more bodies to support and try and defend what is a very good Vanderbilt rushing attack. I think if you're South Carolina, you are making Diego Pavia beat you from the pocket as a thrower of the football in this game. Look, if we go and lose, we go and lose because Diego Pavia has a ton of success throwing the football down the field. We're not going to lose because Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt run all over this defense. I think that's probably the key to the game. Here's the last thing, and this was really the difference last year, creating negative plays. This is a Vanderbilt offense that if they have the ability to stay on schedule, and what I mean by that is, hey, 2nd and 5, then 3rd and 2, then we're moving the chains, not taking a lot of negative plays, they're really hard to defend. But if you can create some negative plays on 1st and 2nd down, Dylan Stewart certainly a factor in that department. Ryan Thomas also one playing good ball. Then it's a little bit trickier for Vanderbilt to move the football because when you're sitting there at 3rd and 10, number one, you have to try to pass protect against a guy like Dylan Stewart. But number two, you don't have as much of that playbook at your disposal. You're largely forcing Vanderbilt to be in these obvious passing situations where Diego Pavia is probably not as comfortable operating this offense. Creating negative plays, stopping the run, that's going to be the storyline for this Vanderbilt offense going up against the South Carolina defense. Now you flip the sides. This has been including myself, I was very optimistic about the South Carolina offense. I was nervous about the defense. It's been a complete opposite. This defense has been nails. The South Carolina offense has struggled mightily outside of that first drive against Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt's they're gonna get after South Carolina. They blitzed Virginia Tech 41% of snaps last weekend. In the second half, that number was probably a little bit higher. They've been really good at forcing negative plays, 6 sacks, 18 tackles for a loss through 2 football games. If you're South Carolina, number one, you can't take the negative plays that we've seen this team historically take in the past. That is project number one. Number two, we have to try to get the ball rolling and build some rhythm with this offense. Outside of that first drive, there haven't been a ton of easy plays for South Carolina. And it's a double-edged sword. I mean, number one, I think this offense is just not executing. This is an offensive line that I think should be way better than what we've seen the first 2 weeks. This is a quarterback in LaNorris Sellers that I think should be way better than what we've seen the first 2 weeks. But at the same time, Mike Shula's got to do a better job. There's not a ton of creativity. And when you have a quarterback like LaNorris Sellers, why aren't we being more creative with this ground attack? I think it starts with LaNorris Sellers and his legs. In this kind of football game, I think you're going to need LaNorris Sellers to be the best athlete on the football field, of which we know he is. South Carolina was a little hesitant to get LaNorris Sellers involved with his legs early in the year. I don't think you can afford to be hesitant in this game. I mean, at the end of the day, look, we think LaNorris Sellers, in fact, we know LaNorris Sellers can push the ball down the field. We've seen him do it. You can't take the best part about this kid's game away from him. And that's him being an athlete. That's him being the best athlete on the football field. If you want to get the ground game going, yes, the offensive line needs to be better. There ain't no question about that. I think Mike Shula's got to do a better job getting creative and finding ways to really help this offense stay on schedule and run the football. Now, through the air here, I think you're looking at that Vanderbilt secondary and saying, hey, we've heard all this buzz around South Carolina's wide receivers in fall camp. Outside of Nick Harbor, it's been very, very quiet. This is a game where I think you can get your wide receivers involved. Vanderbilt secondary struggled mightily last year. I'm not sure they did enough to fix some of those problems in the portal. All that buzz we've heard about these young wide receivers, you kind of want to see it play out in this football game. Here's another thing I'm looking at. LaNorris Sellers pushing the ball down the field. He was one of the best deep ball throwers in the country in 2024, completing 48.7% of his throws. This year, he's only done it 4 times, 20-plus yards down the field. He's completed 3 of them. It's accounted for over 70% of South Carolina's passing yards. Where's the verticality in this offense? Nick Harbor might be one of the best deep threats in the country. When we've given Nick Harbor opportunities to win vertically, he has. I'm looking at Vandrevius Jacobs. I'm looking at freshman Donovan Murphy and say, hey, number one, we think LaNorris Sellers can do it. In fact, we know he can do it because we've seen him do it. He's really comfortable doing so. And number two, we think we like our matchups out there. Would love to see a little bit more verticality. Now, you could make the argument it starts with the run. Like, you got to be able to run the football well enough so you can set up some play action and take your shots down the field. So it probably does start with South Carolina having some success in the run game, forcing Vanderbilt to maybe squeeze down a little bit and account for it. Then you can start doing it. It's got to be clean. All right, Vanderbilt's an offense that if you are sloppy on the offensive line and you're not picking up some second level blitzes, you can get behind the chains really damn quick. That's not where South Carolina wants to live. Can you avoid taking the negative plays? Can you get the run game going, and can you find some explosive plays vertically? Those are the three keys to the game for South Carolina. You need better execution. I think Mike Shula's got to be better calling the plays. Getting into the pick here, I'm going to go South Carolina. And look, partially this is because I've always been on high in South Carolina throughout the whole entire offseason, and I'm not ready to sell stock immediately. But number two, I think there are some matchups that you like here. I've been very, very impressed with how this front seven is played. I would be really surprised if Vanderbilt has a ton of success running the football, especially with South Carolina's ability to create negative plays and how these linebackers have played. If you can get LaNorris Sellers going in the ground game, which Vanderbilt struggled with last week, Kyron Jones, the box score won't show it because Kyron Jones took some really bad sacks in the second half of that game. Kyron Jones had some chunk plays as an athlete. I think LaNorris Sellers needs that. I think South Carolina is going to ask him to do that in this football game. If you get that, you start running the football better, get some verticality in this offense. I think South Carolina can win this one. And also this, at home, inside of a touchdown, give me South Carolina. Because I know damn well, even though I know the South Carolina fans are a little frustrated with what they've seen, they're going to show up 7:45 Eastern time Saturday night. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.